Since you're still a failure, maybe I'll ask my boss if he wants another janitor. My ex's husband mocked. I just replied, sure. 3 days later, I revealed I was his boss, fired him and his whole team, and exposed him in front of everyone. Hey Reddit, it's been a wild few years, and I, Kenny, 32 male, finally have a story worth sharing. Let's just say it involves an ex who thought I'd fail, a guy who mocked me in public, and a company that didn't realize who was really signing their checks. It's not your typical revenge story. This one's got a little karma, a lot of strategy, and the best kind of success. Dinner with investors had gone better than expected. We wrapped up at an upscale restaurant downtown, one of those places with soft lighting, piano music, and steaks that cost more than some people's car payments. I was finishing the last of my espresso, scanning through a few notes on my phone, when I heard a voice I hadn't heard in 2 years, but would have recognized anywhere. Olivia, my ex-wife. She was laughing, that same high-pitched fake laugh she used when she wanted attention. I looked up, and sure enough, there she was, sitting across the room, all dressed up like she was auditioning for a reality show, next to a guy I knew too well, Kyle Thompson. Kyle was her new husband, the guy she traded me for. He'd clawed his way up to VP of Marketing at Solar Corp Solutions. Loud title, louder ego. The guy loved suits, hair gel, and the sound of his own voice. He was surrounded by a group of his work buddies, all acting like they owned the world. I sighed, debating whether to just leave quietly. But of course, Kyle's radar for attention picked up on me. His smirk was immediate, the kind of smirk you want to slap off someone's face. Kenny, wow man, long time, he said, loud enough for his table to hear. Didn't expect to see you here. I thought you'd be at one of those self-help seminars or something. I gave him a polite nod. Good evening, Kyle. Olivia turned around, her eyes scanning me from head to toe. She smirked, too, that same smug expression she used when she thought she'd won something. Oh, hey, Kenny, she said. Didn't think you'd still be hanging around these parts. How's the, what was it again, solar thing? Still tinkering in your garage? A few people at their table chuckled. I stayed quiet, just smiled. She always had that tone, like confidence was something she rented, not owned. Kyle leaned back in his chair, clearly enjoying himself. Olivia, come on, don't tease him. He's probably just taking a break from all that unemployment. Must be nice to retire early, huh, buddy? I raised an eyebrow. Retire? That's cute. You think I'd ever stop working? He shrugged. I mean, that's what I heard. The guy who spent years chasing solar panels finally gave up. Olivia giggled. Yeah, I told him it would never work. He used to spend all night talking about energy grids and systems like it was a video game. I said, babe, you're not Elon Musk. Calm down. The group erupted in laughter. One of the men, some overconfident finance type with slicked hair, added, maybe you should apply at Solar Corp, man. I'm sure we could find you something. Maybe in maintenance. I smiled wider. Maintenance, huh? You might be right. Someone definitely needs to clean up around there. That one flew over their heads, but it made me feel better. Olivia took a sip of her drink, eyeing me with that condescending pity look she'd mastered. Kenny, you always had potential, she said. You just never knew when to stop chasing fantasies. You could have had a normal life if you just listened to me. I laughed softly. Yeah, because your version of normal was so inspiring. She frowned, the humor vanishing for half a second. Kyle placed his hand on hers. Classic move. The kind of possessive gesture insecure men do when they're losing ground. He smirked again. Anyway, it's good seeing you, man. We're actually celebrating tonight. Big sales milestone at work, you know, real results. Good for you. I said, you've earned it. Must be tough pretending to know what you're doing every day. That got me a few confused looks. They weren't sure if I was joking or insulting them. I like that kind of balance. Olivia rolled her eyes. You always did have a hard time being happy for people. It's okay. Not everyone's built for success. That was it. I stood up slowly, buttoned my jacket, and looked right at them. Calm, steady, no emotion. You're right, I said. Not everyone is built for it. Kyle laughed, looking around at his crew like I was the evening's entertainment. You still trying to sound mysterious, man? Come on, don't be that guy. You had your shot. The world moves on. I leaned slightly closer, my tone almost friendly. Then you better move fast. He blinked. What? I gave a small grin. Enjoy your remaining days. The table went silent for a beat. Then a few awkward chuckles rippled through them. Olivia shook her head, muttering something about me being dramatic as ever. I walked out without another word. Outside, the night air felt cooler than usual. The city lights bounced off the glass buildings, and I could see their reflections behind me through the restaurant window. Still laughing, still clueless. I unlocked my car, sat inside, and just stared at the steering wheel for a minute. My heart wasn't racing. I wasn't angry. I was entertained because what none of them knew, not Olivia, not Kyle, not his loudmouth co-workers, was that I owned Solar Corp Solutions, the same company they work at. I bought it 6 months ago through a holding company, cleaned up the numbers, and had been quietly reviewing the rot inside. I just hadn't revealed myself yet. But now, after that performance, yeah, I'd make my entrance soon. As I started the engine, I couldn't help but laugh to myself. Kyle thought I was some washed-up dreamer. Olivia thought she'd traded up. They had no idea the man they mocked tonight was their boss. By the time I hit the freeway, one thought kept looping in my head. It's time to stop being quiet. But before I could even plan my next move, memories started creeping in. I'd been quiet before too, and it nearly destroyed me. I grew up in Seattle, the kind of kid who couldn't sit still unless I was building something. While everyone else spent their weekends playing video games or getting into dumb teenage drama, I was wiring cheap solar cells together in my dad's garage, trying to power a light bulb. It barely lit up, but when it did, I felt like I owned the sun. By college, I'd turned that curiosity into something real. I was the engineering guy who skipped parties to 3D print turbine models. That's when I met Olivia. She was majoring in business administration, confident, always the center of attention, and somehow had every professor wrapped around her finger. She liked that I wasn't like the guys chasing her. I was focused, calm, always thinking 2 steps ahead. She said she loved my ambition. I remember her telling me once, "You're going to change the world someday." At the time, I thought she meant it. After graduation, I started EcoWave Energy, a small renewable tech startup. My goal was simple: affordable solar systems for regular homes. Back then, solar tech was still considered a luxury, and everyone thought I was out of my mind. Everyone except Olivia. At least in the beginning, we didn't have much, but there was energy between us. That kind of "we're building something" phase. Then things started to change. The company grew, and with that came stress, investor meetings, prototype failures, delays. I'd work 16-hour days sometimes, come home half-conscious, and crash next to my laptop. At first, Olivia said she understood, but that understanding slowly turned into irritation. She started making comments like, "You care more about those stupid panels than me," or "You're married to your job." I'd try explaining that everything I was doing, every hour, every calculation, keto was for us. But she didn't want logic. She wanted attention. And I was too focused on making sure we could pay rent to play therapists. One night she came into my workspace, arms crossed. "You're wasting your life, Kenny," she said. "No one's going to buy these things. You think the world cares about your little dream?" I didn't even look up from the circuit I was testing. "Someone has to care, otherwise nothing changes," she scoffed. "You sound ridiculous. You're chasing sunlight like a kid chasing fireflies." It stung, but I let it go. You learn to ignore words when you're too busy trying not to fail. Then came the disaster. The inverter rollout. It was supposed to be our big breakthrough. We launched a new system for small businesses, and within 2 weeks units started overheating. The failure rate was bad, really bad. I spent days trying to fix it, refunding clients, fielding angry calls. Investors threatened to pull out. Olivia lost it. "I told you this would happen," she yelled one night while packing a suitcase. "You're obsessed with this fantasy company and now it's falling apart. I'm not drowning with you." I stood there covered in dust from the workshop, exhausted and numb. "So that's it? You're quitting?" She slammed a folder on the counter. "Divorce papers. I'm done. Maybe you'll finally wake up when you lose everything." She walked out without looking back. I wish I could say I chased after her, but I didn't. I was too tired to argue anymore. I signed the papers, handed over what the lawyers demanded, and went back to work. She walked away with a huge settlement, called me neglectful in court, and smiled like she'd won something. 6 months later, word got around that she was dating Kyle Thompson, the same Kyle who handled marketing at Solar Corp Solutions. Kyle was the opposite of me. Loud, fake, confident, always selling something, even when he had nothing to sell. I saw their photos online. Tropical vacations, champagne toasts, the perfect couple. Meanwhile, I was rebuilding Ikoa from the ashes. The inverter failure had wrecked us, but I refused to let that be the end. I brought in a small team, redesigned everything from scratch, and worked like a man possessed. There were nights I'd wake up on the office couch, wires stuck to my shirt, brains still racing, and it worked. Slowly, Echo Wave came back to life. The redesigned inverter system was cleaner, safer, and 10 times more efficient than anything we'd built before. I barely saw the sun even though I worked in solar. Ironic, I know. But this time the work hit differently. It wasn't about proving Olivia wrong or trying to impress investors. It was about making sure no one could ever take away what I built again. I lived in that office, literally. My desk became my dining table, my couch turned into my bed, and coffee turned into my blood type. My team was small, 5 engineers and 1 intern who thought caffeine was a food group. We worked insane hours, sometimes arguing over code, sometimes laughing at the insanity of it all. The real turning point came when we landed a contract with a local government program focused on renewable installations for schools. That deal meant legitimacy. It also meant long nights fixing every single flaw before rollout. We couldn't afford another mistake. 6 months later, the first system went live in a middle school outside Tacoma. When the lights turned on, powered purely by our setup, I remember standing outside the building like a proud idiot. It wasn't about money, it was about winning, quietly this time. From there, things snowballed. We got featured in a sustainability magazine. Investors came crawling back and new deals rolled in. My inbox went from empty to exploding. Within 2 years, EcoWave Energy wasn't a struggling startup anymore. It was one of the fastest-growing green energy companies in the state. When the acquisition offers started coming, I ignored the first few. Then one came in at $75 million. I didn't say yes immediately. I spent 2 weeks going over every number, making sure it wasn't another corporate trap. When it all checked out, I signed the deal. Just like that, the company I'd built from nothing was sold. It was weird. You'd think I'd be popping champagne or something, but honestly, I just sat in my office after everyone left and stared at the empty desks. I'd fought for that company like it was a living thing. Letting it go felt like closing a chapter of my life, a painful one, but necessary. After the sale, I needed air. I took time off, traveled a bit. Iceland for the geothermal plants, Japan for solar farms, and a random week in Italy where I pretended to relax but still ended up talking about battery grids with a vineyard owner. Classic me. When I got back, I decided to stay low-key. No big announcements, no flashy cars, no look-at-me nonsense. I started investing quietly in small renewable projects, wave turbines, rural microgrids, even a company making solar paint. I'd show up, offer funding, and then disappear. It was nice being the quiet guy again, but this time I was the quiet guy with financial artillery. That's when James, my longtime business advisor, gave me a call. James had been with me since EcoWave's early days. An older guy, calm voice, always skeptical of people who talk too much. He said, "You might want to look at something, Kenny. Solar Corp Solutions. They're circling the drain." I frowned. Olivia's husband's company. Yep, he said, and they're bleeding money. But the weird part is on paper their reports look fine. Too fine. Something's off with their finances. I smell something fishy. Now I hadn't thought about Kyle in a long time, but hearing his name stirred something. Solar Corp was supposed to be doing great. Big PR campaigns, flashy events, fake eco awards. Barred per se, but James wasn't wrong. I spent the next few nights digging around. Solar Corp was a mid-sized renewable company focused on solar system installations for commercial properties. They'd been riding the government grant wave for years, but their numbers didn't add up. Their profit margins were too clean. Their expense reports oddly balanced. I asked James to dig deeper. 2 weeks later, he came back with a thick file and a smirk. "You're going to love this." Turns out Kyle had climbed to the top not because he was good, but because he was loud. He and his buddies had basically formed a little inner circle, covering for each other, inflating performance metrics and taking credit for everyone else's work. Anonymous employee surveys described the place as a frat house with solar panels. The reports were brutal. Favoritism, promotions based on who kissed up the most, credit theft. Junior engineers had their innovations rebranded as executive initiatives. Fake efficiency reports, projects marked as completed even when they were half installed. Ignored safety standards, rushed panel setups that failed inspection later. Kyle's name came up repeatedly in every complaint. Apparently, he'd become the company's face of innovation, even though he couldn't explain the difference between a watt and a volt. It was honestly impressive how much damage one man's ego could do. James sat across from me, sipping coffee. "If you're thinking of investing," he said, "do it through a holding company. Keep your name off the papers." I nodded slowly. No publicity, no announcement, just quiet ownership. Exactly. I bought Solar Corp Solutions through a shell company under my holding group. It didn't hurt my pocket much. Only James, my attorney, and Pamela, the new CEO I brought in quietly, knew the truth. I didn't want to make a scene. Not yet. I wanted to see everything from the inside. How Kyle actually ran things when he thought no one was watching. And what I saw was worse than the employees constantly leaving, projects over budget, clients threatening to sue over failed installations. Kyle and his crew throwing celebration dinners for hitting fake numbers while actual field teams begged for more funding. It was a circus. Every night I'd sit in my home office reading internal memos, watching Kyle's name pop up in expense approvals, travel requests, and project decisions. He acted like he owned the place. And technically I did. I didn't rush. I wanted him comfortable, confident, arrogant. The more he thought he was untouchable, the sweeter it would be when he realized who was really signing his checks. Back then, I waited, observed, collected data. But after that night at the restaurant, I was done waiting. Watching Kyle and Olivia mock me like I was some washed-up failure had flipped a switch I didn't even know still existed. There's only so long you can watch people dig their own graves before you hand them a bigger shovel. The drive home was quiet, the kind of quiet that isn't peaceful, the kind that hums with ideas forming. My dashboard lights glowed against the windshield while I replayed every word Kyle said. Real success, he'd called it. Funny thing to hear from a guy who couldn't even read a balance sheet without moving his lips. By the time I pulled into my driveway, I knew what I was going to do. I called James. It was almost midnight, but he picked up on the second ring. He didn't even sound surprised. "I take it the dinner didn't go well." "You could say that," I said. "Kyle and his cheerleaders decided to hold a roast in my honor." He chuckled. "Told you something smelled off with that clown. Good news is I finally found the source of the smell." That woke me up. "You got something?" "Oh, I got more than something," he said. Papers shuffled on his end. "I dug deeper into Solar Corp's financials like you asked. Guess who's been approving fake project budgets? Kyle's name shows up on at least 7 expense accounts that don't exist." "Embezzlement?" I asked. "More than that," James replied. "He's been leaking Solar Corp's proprietary design data to a competitor called Sunline Technologies. They've been underbidding us on contracts using our blueprints. And guess who's been getting consulting fees from them under a fake vendor name? I leaned back in my chair, smiling to myself. You're kidding. I wish I was. The guy basically built a side hustle out of betraying his own company. I've got wire transfers, emails, even a few NDAs he forged. It's a buffet of bad decisions. For a moment, I just sat there. The irony was delicious. The same man who mocked me for being unemployed was stealing from the company I secretly owned. All right, I said finally. No more observing. Time to clean house. James laughed quietly. I figured you'd say that. You want me to prep the documentation? Prep everything, I said. I'm done playing nice. The next 2 days were a blur of action. I barely slept. My home office looked like a crime investigation board. Files, printouts, USB drives, timelines. I traced every suspicious transaction, every fake supplier invoice. Kyle and his inner circle had been running their scam for years. They'd hired a fake subcontractor company that existed only on paper, siphoning money through it while inflating Solar Corp's installation costs. They'd also been bribing inspectors to approve half-finished installations. I had pictures of incomplete solar grids labeled as 100% operational. One array had strings wired in reverse polarity. The panels were literally feeding power the wrong way. The stupidity almost impressed me. I compiled everything into a single airtight report, organized, time-stamped, cross-referenced. Every number matched. Every lie had a receipt. When I was done, the evidence folder looked thick enough to end 5 careers and maybe send 1 or 2 people to jail. While James handled the legal review, I moved quietly inside Solar Corp. Step 1, freeze their access. Step 2, choke their budgets. Step 3, set the stage. I contacted Pamela. I need the quarterly review moved up. How soon? She asked. As soon as humanly possible. She didn't ask why. I'll have the boardroom ready by Friday. You'll be attending. Oh, I'll be there, I said. Front row seat. The boardroom was exactly how I remembered it from my first tour months earlier. Too polished, too corporate, the kind of place where fake smiles were currency. I stepped inside and conversations dipped. Kyle was already at the front of the room, surrounded by his inner circle. The same 4 executives who laughed at me at the restaurant. He noticed me instantly, his smug grin stretched across his face like a billboard. Well, look who decided to join us, he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. What's a loser like you doing here? Looking for job openings? This isn't the place, buddy. The room chuckled nervously. I met his eyes, slow and steady. I'm here to destroy you. That got their attention. The laughter died instantly. Even Pamela looked like she had to suppress a smirk. Kyle blinked, trying to laugh it off. All right, buddy, let's keep it professional. Yeah, we're in a meeting. Oh, trust me, I said, sliding into an empty chair. It's about to get very professional. He scoffed and turned back to his slides. His team dimmed the lights. The projector flickered on, showing the first slide. Quarterly growth report, Solar Corp Solutions. For the next 20 minutes, they paraded through graphs, charts, and buzzwords. Fake success stories, inflated numbers, and innovative campaigns that didn't exist. Kyle strutted around like a motivational speaker. This quarter, he said, laser pointer in hand, we saw a 34% increase in system efficiency and a 20% rise in client satisfaction due to our cutting-edge strategies. Translation, he copied an intern's work and faked the rest. Every time one of his buddies spoke, they looked at each other for approval. Like high school kids presenting a group project they didn't make. I leaned back, arms crossed, letting them dig deeper. Halfway through, Kyle clicked to another graph. One labeled projected expansion growth. The numbers were completely fabricated. I couldn't help it. I laughed out loud. The room went quiet. Kyle froze mid-sentence. Something funny, Mr. Investor? Yeah, I said, standing up. This entire presentation. He frowned. Excuse me? I picked up the remote from the table and clicked off his slide. You know what's crazy? You're talking about expansion and growth. Like this place isn't bleeding from the inside out. A few people shifted uncomfortably. Pamela's lips curved slightly. She knew what was coming. Kyle tried to regain his footing. Look, if you have concerns, you can take them up with... I interrupted, my tone calm but sharp. I'm not taking them up with anyone, Kyle. I'm the one they take things up with. He blinked. What's that supposed to mean? I stepped toward the front of the room, connecting my laptop to the projector. My first slide popped up. The Solar Corp logo with a title that read Internal Audit Summary. Confidential. My name, I said, clicking to the next slide, is Kenny Brooks, and I own this company. The silence that followed was thick. I could practically hear Kyle's brain rebooting. His friends looked at each other, eyes wide. You what? He finally managed. I ignored him and kept talking. 6 months ago, I purchased Solar Corp Solutions through my holding company. Since then, I've been quietly auditing performance, leadership, and ethics, and what I found, I switched to the next slide, is embarrassing. The screen filled with hard data, embezzlement trails, fake invoices, falsified sustainability reports, missing funds, safety violations, leaked blueprints. Every document was time-stamped, verified, and cross-checked. Kyle's fake smile crumbled as the evidence played out in front of his team. These, I said, pointing at the screen, are the numbers your department submitted last quarter. And these, click, are the real ones. Notice the difference. You claim 20% growth, reality a 12% decline. You said client satisfaction rose. Reality, 4 lawsuits and 2 contract terminations. The color drained from Kyle's face. His friends shifted, avoiding eye contact. I turned to him directly. And then there's the fun part. The illegal data leaks to Sunline Technologies, wire transfers under fake vendor accounts, overpriced equipment routed to non-existent subcontractors. You really thought no one would notice? Kyle stood up, trying to save face. You can't just come in here throwing accusations like that. This is personal. You're only doing this because of Olivia. I smiled faintly. You sabotaged your own company. I'm just finishing the cleanup. Pamela slid a folder across the table. All verified, she said to the board members. The CFO flipped through the pages, his expression darkening. My God. Security, I said into the in-room intercom. Please escort Mr. Thompson and his associates out of the building. The doors opened and 2 uniformed guards stepped in. Kyle's team started talking over each other. Excuses, denials, half-hearted apologies. Kyle glared at me one last time. You think this is over? He hissed. You'll regret this. I leaned forward slightly. You've been regrettable since the day you opened Excel. Goodbye, Kyle. The guards led them out as the rest of the room sat in stunned silence. I clicked to the final slide. A plain white background with black text that read, From this point forward, Solar Corp builds energy, not egos. I closed my laptop and looked around the room. Meeting adjourned. Nobody moved. They just stared at me like they were watching a ghost story unfold in real life. Pamela smiled for the first time that morning. Welcome to your company, Mr. Brooks. Mr. Brooks. And just like that, Solar Corp finally had power again. The right kind. Within 48 hours of the boardroom showdown, the entire company was buzzing. Word spread fast. Employees were whispering in hallways. Messages flew across group chats. And for the first time in years, people were actually smiling. The tyrants were gone. While HR cleaned up the mess, I dove straight into what came next. The legal fallout. Kyle's crimes weren't just office politics. The evidence James and I had compiled was a goldmine for the district attorney. I forwarded everything. The fake invoices, the money trail, the leaked design documents, straight to our legal team. Our legal team had already pre-vetted every document with outside counsel and a forensic investigator. So by Monday, Solar Corp officially pressed charges: embezzlement, data theft, fraud, a trifecta of stupidity. While Kyle dealt with reality, I got back to work. I met with Pamela every morning. She was a beast in management, organized, unshakable, and actually gave a damn about results. We started from the ground up, reviewing every department. The office atmosphere changed almost overnight. People who used to walk around tense and silent were suddenly talking, brainstorming, actually excited to work. The coffee room went from a rumor pit to a place where ideas were exchanged. I'd walk in and hear real laughter, not the forced kind that comes from fear. We also overhauled the audit systems. No more handshake approvals or fake supplier accounts. Everything went digital, transparent, and traceable. Pamela called it Operation Sunlight. Fitting. The more I visited the headquarters, the more employees started recognizing me. At first, I kept interactions short. I didn't want hero treatment, but people began approaching me in elevators or after meetings just to say thank you. One field technician said, "Feels like we actually work for an energy company again, not an ego convention." That line stuck with me. Within a few weeks, the company's productivity metrics shot up. Clients that had ghosted Solar Corp months ago started calling back. We launched a new marketing campaign, no flashy slogans, just facts, built on integrity, powered by innovation. For once, the company's message actually meant something. Then out of nowhere, Olivia reached out. I got her message late one night, a long text that started with, "Hey, hope you're doing well." Always a red flag. She said she'd seen the news about Solar Corp's turnaround and wanted to congratulate me on leading the green revolution. She called me visionary, that word she once mocked me for using. She said she always knew I was destined for success and that she was proud of me. The message was so sugary I almost got a cavity reading it. I didn't respond right away. I let her sit in silence for a few days. When she doubled down with another message asking if I'd like to catch up over coffee, I finally answered. "Sure," I replied. "Tomorrow 3 p.m., same cafe near campus." She showed up on time, dressed in designer everything, fake smile locked in place. She looked polished, but the confidence didn't hit the same. Maybe it was the years, or maybe it was knowing her husband was about to stand trial for felonies. "Kenny," she said brightly, sliding into the seat across from me. "You look incredible. Success suits you." I gave her a polite nod. "Thanks, you look well. Funded." She laughed awkwardly. "You always had that dry humor. I missed that." "I bet," I said, stirring my coffee. "So what's this about?" Her expression softened. Or maybe she practiced it in the mirror. "I just wanted to say how proud I am of you. I saw the news about Solar Corp. You're doing amazing things. I always believed in your vision, even back then." That line made me laugh, really, because I distinctly remember you saying I was wasting my life chasing panels no one would buy. Her smile faltered. "I didn't mean it like that. I was just scared. I didn't understand how passionate you were." "No," I said, leaning back. "You understood perfectly. You just didn't have the patience to stick around while it became something real." She blinked, trying to regroup. "Well, we were both young. People make mistakes." I nodded slowly. "Yeah, some mistakes are just harder to forget when they come with settlement papers." Her face tightened, but she tried to laugh it off. "You're still the same sharp guy." "Sharper," I corrected. There was a pause. She looked at me like she was waiting for something. Maybe a sign that I'd fall for her charm again. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table. "You said you wouldn't drown with me," I said quietly. "Well, I'm thriving now, so go ahead. Drown." Her eyes widened. For once, she didn't have a comeback. She just sat there stunned as I placed a few dollars on the table and stood up. "Take care, Olivia," I said. "And next time you see me, remember, I didn't need you to believe in me. I just needed you to doubt me." I walked out before she could speak. As the door closed behind me, I felt lighter than I had in years. The past was done. The company was thriving, and the people who tried to bury me were choking on their own dirt. Olivia could try all she wanted, but that chapter was sealed. She'd walked away from my storm. Now she could watch the sunshine without ever standing in it. 6 months passed faster than I expected. Solar Corp had gone from being a punchline to a powerhouse. Sales skyrocketed, investors flooded in, and Solar Corp's valuation climbed 62% in just half a year. Solar Corp finally felt like what it should have been all along, honest, innovative, and grounded. Then one afternoon I got an email from Harry Peterson, one of Kyle's former inner circle. The subject line read simply, "Apology." I almost deleted it, but something told me to read it. Harry admitted he'd been part of Kyle's toxic leadership and that he'd been too scared to speak up. He said watching me clean house had been a wake-up call, and he wanted to own his mistakes. He didn't ask for his job back, just forgiveness. I met him for coffee. He looked nothing like the arrogant exec I remembered. His tone was quiet, steady. "I lost a lot following Kyle," he said. Money, respect, time. But watching you fix everything showed me what real leadership looks like. I respected that honesty. I told him we all mess up. What matters is what you do after. He nodded. So, we're good? We're good, I said, but I'm not rehiring you. He laughed a little, almost relieved. Didn't expect you to. When he left, I realized I wasn't angry anymore. Forgiving him wasn't for him. It was for me. Somewhere in the middle of all that, I met Diana, a teacher who volunteered for clean water initiatives in underdeveloped areas. We met at a sustainability conference. She spoke about global health. I spoke about off-grid solar systems. She was confident without being arrogant, funny without trying, and the first person who looked me in the eye without asking what I did for a living. It was the kind of peace I didn't realize I'd been missing. Then one night, out of nowhere, my phone lit up with a number I hadn't seen in months. Olivia. For a second, I thought about ignoring it. Curiosity won. Her voice cracked through the receiver. Kenny, I need help. I leaned back in my chair. This should be good. She was crying, the messy, desperate kind. Between sobs, she explained that Kyle had drained all her accounts before his sentencing. He'd sold her jewelry, maxed out their credit cards, and disappeared with everything he could liquidate. She was broke, alone, and furious. And somehow in her twisted logic, that was my fault. You embarrassed him, she cried. You embarrassed me. Everyone knows I was married to him. People whisper about it everywhere I go. That sounds rough, I said flatly. She sniffled. You should do the right thing and help me. You owe me that much. You ruined my life. I almost laughed. Olivia, you ruined your own life. I just happened to be there to watch. Kenny, she pleaded, her voice trembling. You're successful now. Can't you just start over with me? We were good once. No, I said calmly. We weren't. You were convenient when things were easy. The moment it got hard, you jumped ship. She tried one last time. Please, you can't just let me fall apart like this. I paused, then said, You made your choice. You traded loyalty for comfort. Now you have neither. Silence. I could hear her breathing, quiet, shaky. Then she hung up. I sat there for a while staring at the city lights through my office window. Somewhere out there, Olivia was realizing the same thing I had years ago. Success doesn't come from using people. It comes from building something real. I didn't destroy her. I just stopped saving her. That night, I turned off my phone, locked up the office, and headed home. Diana was waiting, reading on the couch, the glow of a small solar lamp we designed together lighting the room. She looked up and smiled. How was work? She asked. I smiled back. Peaceful. Because it finally was.